Alright y'all, so welcome back to another one. Alright, so today's video is one that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I believe that it will really benefit a lot of y'all out there, especially the new people trapping. I believe this is a video that you will find educational as well as I feel like almost a little bit inspirational, right? Alright, so any of you guys that's been following me for any amount of time, you know that the way I've got my system set up as far as fur handling is I've got a dedicated shop. I've got a pretty legit system, and it's pretty easy for me to handle my fur. Now that being said, that is a huge investment that I know a lot of you guys out there are not willing to make. Or if you're just starting out, you may not want to make, okay? So what I want to do in this video is I want to break this down. I want to show you that you can actually process fur for essentially nothing. What I have here in front of me is a bunch of stuff that I either pulled out of a legit dumpster or I had household items. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to actually process a critter with this. I'm going to flesh him, skin him, flesh him, and stretch him and board him. You know, that's the whole idea with fur handling. You kind of get away from just that skinning part and actually move into the true fur handling. To be honest, y'all, I enjoy fur handling just as much, if not more, as I do running the line. It goes hand in hand because obviously you got to have the critters there to handle the fur. So it does go hand in hand. But I really invite you guys, if you've never went out and actually handled your fur, finished it out, so to speak, I really invite you guys to give it a try at least once. I personally have this feeling that if you're going to go to all the trouble of trapping and taking this animal, you need to know the whole process. I really, truly believe that, and this is a super easy way to do it. So anyway, this is going to be a very tutorial kind of geared video. I know a lot of y'all that's more experienced. They're going to find this fairly rudimentary, but at the same time, guys just getting in they're probably going to be kind of eye-opened to just what little stuff it actually takes to handle fur. If you've seen me and my setup with my skinning machines and all my cool toys, this is going back down to the basics, right? Okay, so real quick, we're going to jump in. I'm going to give you guys a rundown of what I got. This is real easy. First off, I got a regular kitchen trash bag. Very simple. I've got a set of rubber gloves. I've got some paper towels. I've got a length of rope here. 5-6 foot will do. No big deal, just a length of rope. I've got a knife. This is going to be what I'm going to skin with. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Honestly, if you can find an old fillet knife or even just a kitchen knife will do in a pinch. But something with a sharp, thin blade is all you need. Moving on, I've got a sharpening steel. Now, this is fairly important, I feel, for a lot of new guys. This really will help you out. Doesn't have to be a sharpening steel. It just really needs to be any kind of a smaller diameter rod. A sharpening steel, I feel, is what everybody's got their options to. So you can use that. I've got a tape measure here. I've got some tape. For a fleshing knife, we're going to use a machete. So any kind of metal blade, I feel a machete is probably what the majority of everybody's got kind of laying around. You don't have to invest in a knife or anything. We got a machete. I've got a piece of cardboard here that I actually dug out of the dumpster on the job site. So we're going to use that. And for our fleshing beam, I'm going to use this piece of 4-inch, this is 4-inch Schedule 40 pipe is all this is. This is just water line. I dug this out of the dumpster on the job site. It doesn't have to be fancy. You can see it's still dirty. That's how we're going to use it. Nothing fancy. And of course, we've got to have our critter. So we've got a coon here. And we're going to do it upright. So let me get the camera kind of situated, and we'll go ahead and we'll start doing this thing here. All right, so first things first, we're going to skin this thing. Now, as you can see, I'm not in my fur shed. Like I said, a lot of y'all don't have the space. Whether it be in your garage, outside, we're going to skin this thing on my clothesline because I feel like that's what a lot of people have an option, a tree, a clothesline, somewhere outside. You may not even have anything indoors. So first things first, we're going to make a very rudimentary gambrel here. It works really well. I carry one of these whenever I coon hunt. If I treat coon long ways away from the truck, I would actually skin it on site. So all we're going to do is take our rope here real quick, we're just going to make a slip knot. It's just 2 square knots, one over each. You made a slip knot. You can see it creates a noose, so it's going to hold the foot. Next, we'll just fold this thing over, and we're going to give ourselves, kind of hold that knot tight, and give ourselves about a 4 arms length. You know, that's roughly what, about a 32-inch piece or so. We'll go ahead and we'll just cut that right off, and just do that same thing again. Make a couple of square knots and slip knots, and then we will essentially have our gambrel. There you go. You can see two loops that will hold. Now you can do this one of 2 ways. You could just simply hang this thing over a limb or a branch, and that will work just fine. That's what I'm going to do in this instance. Or if you're dealing with some sort of a taller thing, simply just tie a knot right there in the center, a couple more square knots, and then you've just, you know, added whatever length you've wanted to your gambrel. Pretty simple and straightforward. Alright, so now we're going to get ready to skin here. We're going to use our first 3 tools here. I've got my rubber gloves, and I've got a sharpening steel, and my knife. So we'll just go ahead and set those up there, and we'll go ahead and get our rubber gloves on. You know, I don't care what anybody says. You're not any more of a man, a woman, an it, a thing. I don't know. It's 2021. I get confused anymore. But anyway, you're human. You're no more of a human than the other person if you don't wear rubber gloves. You guys can see I got a big cut on my thumb. You know, I highly recommend whenever you're dealing with this stuff, you know, wear rubber gloves. I've personally had Giardia before. You don't want it. You know, coons and, you know, all these critters, there's a chance that they carry diseases, distemper, everything else. Put some rubber gloves on. That's my mom talk, my safety talk for you. Alright, so here we've got our critter. It's going to stretch out, you know, pretty nice little coon here. You guys have seen me in my professional handling. If you have, say you got an old hairbrush or a comb or something, go ahead and brush this guy out. Try to get the big mud, burrs, cocker burrs, whatever, off of him. If not, just kind of pick it through. Make sure there's no big burrs or mats or anything. No big deal. Like I said, guys, where did my gambrel go? So like I said, guys, I want to gear this towards the super novice. All right, so to start off with here, like I said, take our gambrel here, and we'll just throw this over. This is my clothesline, tree limb, you know, whatever you've got. Doesn't need to be fancy. We'll just tighten up those nooses, and you can see there we've got our animal just stretched out real nice. Doesn't have to be fancy. I like to have the feet of whatever critter starting about head high. That way whenever we start pulling, you're good to go. Okay, so next we're going to make our opening cuts here. Like I said, I'm going to take my skinning knife or whatever. Forgive me, y'all. I'm doing the best I can this year with YouTube. You're just going to have to take a little bit of a grain of salt. I can't show everything. But what you're going to see here is you're going to see a little bit of a color change with your critter. So to start off with here, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to go right at the vent here on the back side, the tail side. And like I said, I'm trying to do this far enough away from the camera that YouTube doesn't hit me. But just take your knife and run it in. And what we're going to do is we're trying to shoot for a cut line from the vent to the heel. Pretty easy with your knife. Just get your knife underneath there and just run right up to the heel there, and we're just going to go right on the other side of the vent, and we're going to make that line. This is called the money cut. There's better ways to do this, but to start out with, this is perfect, right? All right, so next we're going to skin down the feet, and you're going to try to just wring that foot. You don't have to get right to the end. It's not that critical there, but just get right to the end here. And we're just going to go ahead and just take our hand and just kind of pull that meat down. We're doing what is called case skinning here, for those of you that's new. And what we're going to do is we're going to end up with a tube, basically. You know, kind of like taking off your sock, so to speak. All right, so now we've pulled this animal down.
Now what we want to do is we want to free up his underside. You can pretty much grab kind of right in the center, and just take your knife right like so, make that cut. Okay, there's going to be a little patch of fur left. That's no big deal. Okay, so now we've got our critter here. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and pull. Sometimes this can be difficult depending on what kind of critter you've got. So what I'm going to do is I'll actually just go ahead and I'll flip this critter around to where his tail is facing me now. And what you're able to do is, if you take this steel, a lot of people struggle with the tails. If you take this object and you stick it right at the base of the tail, then what you can do is you can grab hold and you can free up that area in the tail. Now before you do this, put your steel in and then grab your knife, especially on coons here, take and run your knife blade right down the top of the tail. The tail tapers, so I mean you don't have to just fall off of it, but it definitely helps if you can just free up a little bit of that meat around there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our steel here and I'm just going to pull straight down. Okay, there we go. Pull straight down. Now once we get to this point, a lot of times you'll have what's called a tail stripper. We don't have that, you know, because we don't have all the proper tools. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to go ahead and I'm going to ring around the tail. As it tapers, I'm going to free that up. This is where having a sharp pointed knife like a fillet knife comes in. I'm actually just going to stick my knife right in the tail and I'm just going to work that down ever so slightly. You can see the way I'm manipulating my knife here, and you'll get right down to the very end. Also remember, especially if you're selling in the market with coons, you know, the tail is not super important. So if you get to this point and you struggle and you end up maybe cutting the tail off, it's definitely not the end of the world. After I cut, you can see I'm taking my hand and I'm just going to just pull that tail right down. No big deal. You can see I'm just taking my knife here and I'm just going to follow that tailbone right down towards the very end here. Takes a little bit of doing, but it's not that big of a deal, and you don't have to have a tail stripper. So we'll just take this tail here and we'll pull it right to the very end. And then we will just pull the tailbone free. I get a lot of questions on whether or not you can leave this tailbone in, and you cannot. You know, that meat will rot. You need to have that tail opened up to where that thing will get air. And as you can see, we are all the way down to the very end. All right. Now at this point, this is just physical, just pull. Take your hand, and a lot of times you can take your hand, grab a hold, and make a fist and pull. One very easy way to do it. Saves pulling. This is why I say start with the critter's back feet, you know, about head high. You can always raise it up, but if you're not in that situation, you know, you can still kind of skin out the whole thing without a whole lot of trouble. All right, so we get down to this point right here, which is right above the front legs. You'll see the shoulder blades start to appear, and you can see I'm just taking my hand and just kind of manipulating that. This is one of those places a lot of people struggle here. So real quick again, we're going to grab our handy steel, and what we're going to do is, you can see I'm just going to just manipulate that front leg there, poke that through, and give that a good pull, and that'll free up that whole front leg. Makes it a lot easier than having to sit there and take your knife and cut and take the chance of poking a hole in the hide. Once we get around to the other side here, we can just do the exact same thing. Just pull, and we are good to go. Now we've got both front feet exposed here. I'm just going to take my my knife, and we're just going to go ahead and just cut that fur just like so. No big deal. Okay. Now for the head, a lot of people struggle with the head. Take good mind of where the eyes and the ears are located in this critter before you start skinning them. For all critters, you'll see stuff start to appear. Okay, at this point, you've got enough weight of the carcass to actually, you know, kind of aid you. It kind of keeps pulling it down. So understand that normally the ears and the eyes are kind of in line, and as you start skinning down, what you'll be able to see is as the head starts, you'll start to see the earbuds start to appear. Okay, now this whole time we're doing this, I want to tell you guys to cut straight in to the hide. Do not cut down. Okay, everybody has a tendency to cut down. That's where you're going to put a hole in the hide. You can see as we start going down the face of the critter, those earbuds will start to appear. You'll be able to actually make them out. We're going to cut straight in towards the skull on both sides, and we'll just wrap right around. Okay, now once you cut the ears, that actually gives you a really good place to get your fingers in there and pull. We know that directly down from the ears are the eyes, and so what we're going to do is we're just going to use that leverage that we created by our ear holes and just work down until we hit the eyes. Right below the eyes is the start of the jaw. Okay, so as soon as we hit the eyes, you can simply roll your knife around and hit the jawline. Like I said, guys, I apologize. I would love to have this up closer, but I just can't with YouTube. There's a good chance they're going to hit me on this anyway. Once you get past the jaw, then simply do the same technique where you use your finger to get some leverage. The bottom lip does not count. Once you get to the nose, just cut the nose right off. You can leave it long, you can leave it short, you can leave cartilage in it, however you want. Nose is good. All right, there you go. One skinned out raccoon. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Dispose of your carcass however you choose. And now we're going to flesh this guy. Let me get this guy out of the way here. But anyway, there's our skinned coon. He looks real nice, ears intact, eyelashes, nose, whiskers, ear holes, eyes are just nice and tight. It's how you want them to look, okay? No different than me doing it on my big machine. All right, so real quick, let's set up our fleshing station. So whenever I say that I've got this stuff out of a dumpster, that's exactly what I did. You know, fleshing beams, you can make them a million different ways. But, you know, the easiest thing is go to a job site, start digging through dumpster for materials. You can find boards, you can find, in this case, a piece of PVC pipe. This is obviously not ideal, but it's going to work in this situation. So this is a length of pipe. You know, ideally you need something 2 to 3 foot long. This sucker here is 5 foot or so. It's going to be fine for what we're going to do. I'm not going to mess around, and I'm not going to make any fancy stand for it. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take a hammer and a block of wood, and I'm going to drive this sucker in the ground and get it to hold. I want to get it to hold about mid-body. So I'm going to go through that. I got the 2x4 out of the dumpster. So we're just going to take and just drive this sucker in the ground to our desired height. You can cut an angle on it if you want, but I'm just going to drive it. Alright, looks like a fleshing beam. It'll work. So all we needed to do is work. Okay? Alright, for our fleshing knife, what you're going to want is you're going to want some sort of a blade. A lot of fleshing is just pushing. It's not necessarily using a sharp side. Having a sharp side is definitely beneficial, as I'll show you on this coon hide. But here we have just a run-of-the-mill Fiskars machete. Okay? Now, for safety reasons, we're going to try to kind of protect ourselves a little bit from that sharp edge. So, real quick, obviously fleshing knives have two handles, but just for this instance, just going to go ahead and we'll take paper towels, That'll work. We'll wrap that up. We'll take some duct tape. Yeah, that'll work. Alright. There we go. I know it's hard to believe, y'all, but my first fleshing knife was not too far off from what this exact thing was. But now we can grip that blade. It won't cut us. We can go ahead and do our fleshing and our pushing. That's it. There's our fleshing knife. It's a machete with some tape on the end of it. So let me get this camera set up a little bit different, and we're going to go ahead and flesh this coon here. Alright, so I bet you guys were wondering when the trash bag was going to come in. Right now, okay? So in my skinning shop, I've got this fancy apron that I use. In this instance, we're going to do a lot of pushing, kind of hold this critter because of our somewhat instability of our fleshing beam. So I'm just going to take, and we're just going to do the old poncho trick to the garbage bag here, and it's going to work. Like I said, guys, this is geared towards you doing this once, twice, 3 times in a pinch kind of deal. So that's all we're looking for here. So there we go. Let's see if she fits. It's been a minute since I've done that. But we'll do the old poncho trick here. Oh, I about didn't make the head hole big enough. Stylish, eh? Alright, so now that we've got our coon here, like I said, this is a case skin, so we're going for the tube kind of thing here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to spin him inside out. We're just going to put him over top of our pipe. If you really want to get into this, you can take, and if you have the tools, cut a taper out of this. It will help you around the head area. As you can see, the head area on this coon, it's a little tougher, but you have to understand too that we're not really that concerned with anything above the ears for doing this market. So you know, there's not a lot of fat up there anyway. So we're going to grab our fleshing knife here and get my bag just right here. This is kind of where I said this thing will help you. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off and we're just going to scrape. We're going to scrape it down, and you can see the fat coming off of that thing. Okay, right there. Now, if you struggle, this is the center part of the back of the coon. This is the hardest part to do. Take that knife over and lay it flat and work the sharp side and shave that down, okay? If you have the option, which we don't here, if you have the option, put this critter in the refrigerator overnight and he will flesh much easier. So you can see I'm just using this knife just to push all the fat that I can off of this critter. This is an early caught coon. He is actually quite blue. You can see by the leather here, as we get down to the leather, it's actually got a bluish hue to it. It's not white like the pipe. As these critters get prime, they will actually turn white. And this is actually what we're going for, is the very prime critter. Okay, we're just going to use the sharp side of our knife as best we can, and we're going to go ahead and scrape down. We're going to readjust on our fleshing knife. Now you can see there's a little bit of residual fat there, and that's what we're going to get right around the face area. That's a little bit of that cheek meat. We just want to go ahead and take care of that. and we're going to go ahead and scrape down our coon. It's going to get a lot easier once we get past the backside here. See, just scraping it down. The more set up, the more comfortable you get. You can go to your sharp side of your knife, and it will actually aid you in time. Just go ahead and roll this guy around again. Whenever we come to the belly side, just be aware that's a lot thinner skin on most critters, so you may not need to press near as hard. Just use that, come right down to the end here. You can see I'm doing a lot of scraping with the dull side of this machete. Like I said, as you get more comfortable with your preferred tool, whether it be a machete or a actual fleshing knife, you'll be able to work the sharp side around the back of the neck, the shoulder area, those areas that hold a lot more heavy gristle. But as you can see, there's nothing wrong with doing it this way. Now, if this is your first time doing it, and you've been on all the Facebook groups and everybody tells you, oh, you got to get this thing super squeaky clean, you're probably not going to do it. Not your first time. Don't think that's the end of the world. Ideally, we want to get all the heavy fat off, but in reality, a lot of this fat, if you have good airflow, a lot of the little fat will actually melt off. It will dissolve. So don't think it's the end of the world if you've missed a little bit. Especially on coons, you may find it very difficult right behind the ears, down the back. But like I said, don't give up. Don't think it's the end of the world if you don't quite get it all. You're going to want to try your best for sure, but at the same time, if you can pull off the majority of the meat, a lot of the fat will actually melt, and you'll be pretty fine. Okay, so I've got one little patch here of fat here, and a lot of this is just because I'm using a 4-inch round piece of pipe. If I had it tapered, I would be able to get to that a lot easier. So I'm just kind of rolling it around, just finding the sweet spot where I can access that. Like I said, guys, I wanted to make this to where everybody could try their hand at fur handling the first time. And to be pretty honest, this coon does not look great compared to what I normally produce. But like I said, this is pretty rough, rudimentary kind of stuff we're doing here. But nevertheless, you can see here, there is all the heavy fat removed on the head there. That is a very acceptable coon to board right now, and he will board up, and what little fat is left on him will melt off no problem. So you need a board now, and that's where the cardboard comes in. Let me move the camera, and we'll do that. But you can see here, PVC stuck in the ground, it works. All right, so now we need to make a board for our coon, or a forming board or something to stretch him out on when it's dry. This is actually what you are looking for whenever you get a forming board. This is what they look like. We don't have that option. So what we're going to do is we're going to improvise. So what I've got here is a pretty thick piece of cardboard that I pulled out of the dumpster right alongside that piece of pipe that we just fleshed the coon on. And I'm going to show you real quick how to make a very quick stretcher board, or forming board, however you want to call it. But what I want to do is I'm just going to take, and you need about 3 foot, you know, roughly to do this. And so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to square off this piece of cardboard. Now, you're only going to need about 7 inches wide worth of cardboard, so you don't need a bunch. But this is essentially what we're making. Now you don't have one of these, so I'm going to show you here real quick what to do. I've got some numbers down here for all y'all out there. Make a mark from the edge at 4 1/4 and 5 3/4. Let's just do that. Okay, that'll be the start of your board. Then what you're going to do is you're going to come down 1 foot. Okay, now 1 foot you need to be about 6 1/4 inches wide roughly. So we're just going to take our tape and we're going to try to find center just as close as possible. And we're going to draw a line, and we're going to go roughly 3 1/8 past that, and we're going to go past that. We'll go 3 1/8. Okay, there's our marks right there and right there. Now we'll take a straight edge, any kind of straight edge will work, and we're going to want to just kind of draw a line from point to point. Okay, you can see that's a pretty squared off point, and you can see the board has a little bit of a taper to it. So, you know, about halfway up, what I'm going to do is just kind of float that in and just kind of make it a little bit more rounded. All right, now one more measurement. I didn't want to go crazy with measurements, y'all. Like I said, this is not perfect, but this will definitely get you where you need to go by doing a raccoon. Come down 2 foot. Okay, like I said, we're going to line up our first line now with our second line with our tape. We're going to give ourselves 2 foot. And we want to be right around that 7-inch mark at 24 inches. Okay, so just real quick, we'll make our center line, and then we're going to give ourselves about 3 1/2 inches on each side of that. And then what you want to do is you want to carry that 3 1/2 inches all the way down. So however you want to do it, if you want to have a straight edge and you want to measure over, you know, like in this instance, to maintain that 7 inches, I need to measure over, you know, 2 9 inches. So I'll go down a little bit more and I'll measure over 2 9, and that'll give me a straight shot down through. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my straight edge again, and I'm going to connect the dots all the way down through, just like so. Nothing real difficult about this. Oop, got off a little bit. And then connect the dots like so. There we have it, a drawn out coon board on cardboard. Now I'm just going to take whatever you want, razor knife, scissors, butter knife, whatever you want, and we'll just cut this pattern out real easy. There's one side. You see, out of my dumpster cardboard I could have got at least two boards. we go. Round them corners off. There we have a cardboard cutout of a coon board. And look at that. Just about perfect. Fits perfect. There we go. Alright, so that's what we're going to use. Now, you got some type of push pins. You can use push pins. But we need some way to hold this coon from coming up the stretcher board, basically. Alright, so being as we skin this thing on a clothesline, we'll just use some clothespins. But like I said, guys, this thing will have a tendency to curl on you. That's why it's cardboard and not a board. But you know, it'll do in a pinch, right? Like that's the biggest thing. That's what I want to portray to everybody. You can do this stuff in a pinch. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take our coon. We're gonna slide him on our cardboard cutout. We're gonna put his nose right over the top there. Now, for starting out, we're not gonna deal with sizes. I just want you all to get this kind of squared away here. But you can see here that our coon fits very nicely on our board. Okay, we want to center up his tail, center him up there. Now what we're gonna do is, if you have pins, you know, these are just little push pins for like a tack board. You can buy them at the dollar store. We'll go ahead and pin them into the cardboard. If you don't, use a clothespin and pin them as close to the edge as you can. Ideally, we're gonna want our feet, you know, as close in as we can. But it's definitely not a killer if you don't. Like I said, this is just pretty basic, pretty rudimentary here. What we're doing: take you a clothespin and hold it. Take you a pin, hold it. Whatever you can do to get it done. Okay. So you can see with 2 pins and 2 clothespins, I've got that thing pretty well secured. For the tail, we're going to take, and ideally you would want to pin this in a manner like that with several pins. If you don't have that option, let's say you don't have that option, take you a clothespin, and we're going to take and pull the tail as far to one side as we can by keeping the center of the tail inside of the line. We don't want it to creep over too much, but you know, it'll definitely work. And then we'll go ahead and we'll just add a couple more clothespins to each side. It's not perfect, but that's definitely a good enough way to do it. You can see here he looks just like he should. I got a pin on his nose to keep his nose from folding over. I mean, there's not much more to be said on this side. We will take and go to the opposite side. We're going to cut what is called the window. You've got this little flabby bit here. I always take and cut that just a slight little bit down. This will just help kind of with the inspection area. It also just dresses that up real nice. We're going to take our front legs, cut them off. They don't have to be very long at all. Make the presentation look nice. And then we're going to go right here to the bottom lip, and we're just going to trim any of that residual meat or anything off that has no value, and we will be good to go. So anyway, guys, there's really no reason for a belly board. A belly board is a board typically that goes in the underside of the belly to help get off the board. Cardboard's got so much flex to it that you'll be able to pull this thing off no problem. So anyway, hang this guy up. Typically whenever you're using clothespins like this, hang him by the nose. I like to hang mine from the tail, but you've got cardboard in here. It will soak up a lot of the fat, and it'll also keep your stuff from falling down. You want to keep this thing as dry as you can. Ideally dry this thing in you know, that kind of mid 50s to mid 60s in low humidity. Typically it'll take around 4 to 5 days in those temperatures, depending on your air circulation and humidity levels. The best way to judge whenever a pelt is actually dry is just to feel the nose of the critter. That will be the last thing to dry. Whenever that nose is hard, it's good to come off the board, and it'll kind of stop shrinking, if that makes sense. So anyway, y'all, here it is. One coon from start to finish with basic stuff that I pulled out of a dumpster and found in my house. There you go. All right, y'all. So been 4, 5, 6 days or whatever. I've been checking this coon. Like I said, it's done. Definitely, the nose is hard on it. I had to readjust my clothespins a few times just because it's on cardboard. But yeah, got it to stretch out real nice. You can see here, it's sweated just a little bit more than normal. If I normally would have done it, just because of the, I wasn't able to get quite as good around the head and neck area. That being said, it has sweated all that fat off, and you can see here, it's perfect. I mean, there's no problem with it. Like I said, it just, whenever you've got quality tools and then the proper tools, it makes things easier. But definitely nothing wrong with this coon other than the fact it's just blue. This was real early coon. This is a video I tried to get out real quick, for the start of season. But other than that, it's pretty good. So, like I said, we're going to go ahead and take him off our board now. I'll just remove all the clothespins and push pins here. Like I said, guys, this is something that you can do with some pretty simple stuff, and it will work. Definitely will work. So, anyway, I hope this gives some of you guys some motivation. And, to go out and try it. You can see our window came out just perfect. So, he should come off real easy because he's on cardboard. But, there we go. No problem at all. So, there's our cardboard. You can see it's soaked up a ton of fat. I had this thing hanging nose down. But, yeah, we'll just wipe him down just a bit there. Like I said, he sweated out just a little bit more than normal. And besides the fact he's blue, that's a perfectly sellable critter. I would have no problem selling it. So I hope you guys took this as a little bit of an inspirational deal. Go out and try this. You can definitely do it with super simple tools. But anyway, there's our coon. Like I said, we know he's dry because his nose is hard. But yeah, turned out really nice. So anyway, I hope you all found this interesting. If you did, definitely comment down below. I'd appreciate it. Hit that thumbs up button. That really helps me out because it's tough times with YouTube. But anyway, y'all, I'm going to get back to trapping. I've got a pile of coons to skin here. We're rolling now. So anyway, as always, y'all, appreciate the view. See you on the next one.